Namaste. I just saw the trailer of Ramayana. My friend sent it to me and they wanted me to react on it. And um, I really don't want to react on it. It is a work of art. It is produced by Bollywood. Um, and it has Bollywood sensibilities. And it is very clear that it is a film that is not interested in Valmiki Ramayana or Tulsi Ramayana, but is interested in creating and presenting Ramayana to a generation of children who have watched Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones. Um, and it's very European in its feel. Um, it's a Ramayana for India. It is not a Ramayana for Bharat. Because in Bharat, Ramayana would begin with Mangala Bhavana, which is what I grew up with in the 1980s on television. Um, and most people think Mangala Bhavana or Mangala Bhari, this line was created by Ramanan Sagar for Doordarshan. That's not true. This was written 500 years ago by Tulsidas ji on the banks of the river Ganga. And when we think of Ramanan Sagar's Ramayana, we are really remembering the songs and the words of Tulsidas, who wrote it 500 years ago. And Tulsidas was a devotee of Ram, and his Ramcharitmanas was a product of that devotion. And therefore, the literary appeal of Ramcharitmanas comes from deep devotion. It is not coming from a 400 crore budget. So we must understand what Ramayana means in the Ramcharitmanas. And we must not try to say that, oh, why is a Bollywood Ramayana not matching up to a Ramcharitmanas by Tulsidas ji? Because Tulsidas ji lived in absolute abject poverty. He was treated badly by the Brahmins because he was trying to bring the story of Ram to the masses. He was trying to bring it in the Lokakatha, in the local language. It is full of emotions, rasa and bhav. He was trying to produce his ideas of what he had understood about Vedas, Vedanta, Avatar, Vishnu, Vaishnavism, all these ideas of bhakti, of saguna bhakti, is what he was trying to present in his Ramcharitmanas. And that, therefore, is a very different literary product which made its way to the Ram Leela. And we must understand there's a 500-year-old tradition of narrating the Ram Leela, the Ram Katha, which is told on stage in North India. And that was what came in the 1980s on television. And that is what spellbound India about, 40 years ago, 40, 50 years ago. Today, when we talk about the Ramayana, we are thinking of CGI effects. We are thinking of huge budgets. You're thinking of Bollywood stars. You're thinking of weapons and people jumping around like it's a Chinese karate movie or a Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, where the Rakshasas look like orcs and trolls and creatures from Lord of the Rings. And I think that's a different sensibility. It's a different appeal. It's trying to reach out to a audience which doesn't understand bhakti, which doesn't find Ram as a cool idea. But what is interesting is the younger generation is also thinking generation. Your children, if they are from Gen Z or Gen Alpha, will ask questions. And the trailer says, our truth, our history. What is our history? Who is this our people? Because history is linked to geography. And if it is our history and therefore our geography, are we saying Ram is from North India? He traveled through South India to defeat a South Indian king called Ravana. And are the Vanars who supported him from what is today Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh region, are we saying the Vanars are from the Deccan region? These are questions that people will ask. The moment you say it's our history, then our geography comes into the picture. And that becomes very important to answer this question to children, that what is the geography that you're presenting? Because if I'm not mistaken, in the trailer, Lanka looks like it's snow. There seems to be a lot of ash and snow, and there are eagles. And I'm wondering, where did eagles come from in the Valmiki Ramayana and the Tulsi Ramayana? Garuda is an important character in Tulsi Ramayana, but he's not participating in the Ramayana. Ramayana talks about vultures. Jatayu and Sampati are vultures. Um, in Ramcharitmanas, you have got Kakabhusandi, a crow being presented. So it's, I'm trying to understand this trailer, and trying to understand its motivation. Um, it's clearly trying to present a Ramayana. It's trying very, very hard with all the money that is being invested in it to create a spectacular world. But children are going to ask, if it's our history, did we have planes in ancient times but no guns? But there are explosions. I saw an explosion. So how does that explosion happen? Sonic bombs through mantras? Uh, it's quite possible, because if that's our truth, then our truth is we have mantras that can produce bombs. I wonder if children raised on Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, will be able to appreciate that fine detail. Ram is clean shaven. He goes to the forest. So he shaves every day, and he's wearing orange clothes. Traditionally, what Ram wore in the forest is called valkal. Valkal is a bark cloth. Today, bark cloths are not produced in India, but in Africa, in Papua New Guinea, in New Zealand, there are people who still make bark cloth. And it is a particular, you take the bark cloth and you wrap it around it. And that is a very important thing. It's not an orange colored fluorescent clothes. Which have political implications, of course, but Ram wore Valkal. That is the way it is described in the Valmiki Ramayana. On stage, they would make orange clothes because that is the closest they would get to the Bhagwa cloth, but it's not really a cloth, it is bark. And that is what is an interesting thing that would have been great to see, because how would Valkal be wrapped? And only Ram and Lakshman wear Valkal. Sita doesn't wear Valkal, so she doesn't wear orange clothes. She wears the Suhag ki Nishani. She wears all the clothes, the jewelry that a woman is supposed to wear, because to remove the jewelry is considered upshagun. And therefore, the women of Ayodhya stopped her from removing her garments and her jewelry. And that is the jewelry she throws when she is being abducted. And, that detail. So if you're doing research on history and you want to refer to the Valmiki Ramayana, which was written 2000 years ago, as history, then Valkal would have been a nice fabric for Ram to wear, and Sita wouldn't wear it. She would be wearing, in fact, Anasuya gives her clothes that will never get dusty in the forest. She gives a special kind of garment, Anasuya, who is related to Atre Muni, and that is what the gift given to Sita. So these are little details in the Ramayana which are very interesting. We have to ask ourselves that when we look at the story of Ramayana, which is our truth, which Ramayana are we talking about? Are we talking about Valmiki Ramayana, which was written 2000 years ago, or Tulsi Ramayana, which was written 500 years ago? Valmiki Ramayana was written in a kind of an older Sanskrit, not the Vedic Sanskrit, not the classical Sanskrit, but something in between. Valmiki Ramayana is very different from Tulsi Ramayana, which is written in Awadhi, not Hindi, but Awadhi. 500 years ago. And the reasons were very different. The stories, the reasons for Valmiki Ramayana and the reason for Tulsi Ramayana is very different. Now, whoever wrote the Valmiki Ramayana, because Valmiki Ramayana is obviously an oral tradition, much older tradition. And we know it is an older tradition because the story barely refers to elephants. There are no elephants in the Ramayana. The chariots barely are present. You know that they're talking about a chariot riding people who come from Kaikeya Desha, which is somewhere in Pakistan today. That is the region of Kaikeya from where horses were being imported. But there are no horse riders mentioned in the Ramayana. And because no horse riders are mentioned, it's clearly a very, very old story. A story which does not belong to the time when it was written. So when it was composed, when it was narrated, and finally when it was written, there's a vast gap. And it was written down around 2000 years ago. We know that because it refers to the Shakas, the Yavanas. These are people who controlled the trade routes 2000 years ago. So why would a manuscript have them referred? So it's clearly by this time it was being put down in writing about 2000 years ago. And that is the time when Buddhism was in its peak. And Buddhism was about renouncing the world. It's about the story of a prince who walks away from the palace to become a sage. And Ramayana is really a pushback on the Buddhist idea. It talks about a prince who upholds his responsibility. Despite all the tragedies that he faces, he realizes life is about responsibility, accountability. He has to be the king. So Buddha gives up kingship, Ram embraces kingship. Buddha abandons his wife because he was going in search of a higher truth, which he believes is not there in the family. Ram is compelled to abandon his wife because of social pressures, of what it means to be pure in a royal family. And it's about royal reputation. It is something that when you see a serial called The Crown, dealing with Queen Elizabeth, you realize that the Queen always gives priority to the crown over her own family. And she comes across as someone who prefers the institution of the crown over children's marriage and happiness. And that's exactly what Ramayana is saying. Kings have to prioritize the institution of kingship over personal relationships. And reputation plays a very important role. Gossip plays a very important role. And the horrors of it, and the whole idea of Sita's story tells you that you may be innocent and still suffer in a society. And that's the dark side which Ramayana is presenting. And that's what Valmiki's Ramayana was about. Valmiki is present in the story, and he's telling you the story of a king who has to take difficult decisions. He has to give his kingdom away to his younger brother. He wants to be with his wife. And, when I was watching the trailer, I realized that the filmmakers are not interested in the relationship of Ram and Sita. It is more interested in killing Ravan. And killing of Ravan seems to be the purpose of Ramayana, but that's not Ramayana at all. Ramayana is about a love story about a man and a woman who are never allowed to be together, who are constantly being separated from each other by circumstances. Kaikai wants to separate them, tells Ram, you go to the forest and Sita will live. But Sita says, no, I will come with Ram to the forest. In the forest, you have Ravana separating them. And after a great war, they again come together. And then the people gossip and they separate Ram and Sita. So this whole yearning, this kavya, this poetry is about, lovebirds never being allowed to be together. And, you get a glimpse of it, a foreshadowing it in the Valmiki Ramayana at the beginning when Valmiki witnesses a hunter shooting a male bird and the female bird is crying. And the separation of the male and female bird is foreshadowing the separation of Ram and Sita. And this is missing. I didn't find that in the trailer because the trailer is a very masculine. It's about man, Ram fighting Ravan, and Sita is just incidental. But this is a new way of telling stories. It's very manga, very anime, which doesn't have bhava. Emotions, love, which is the cornerstone of Ramayana. Love in the family. It's not about duty and responsibility. It is about bhavartha and shabdartha. It's not the word, but the emotion. And Ram is about that emotion. The brotherly love, fatherly love, the love of a husband for a wife, the tension between being a husband and being a king. And these are things that I feel were missing. And I was trying to look at how Ravan was portrayed in artworks. Now, Ravan is portrayed in artworks. The Pushpak Viman, for example, is shown first in Ellora. You see images of Ravan and Pushpak Viman in Ellora, which is in Maharashtra. And in the Ellora caves, you find around 100 years ago, these images of Ravan, and he doesn't look like a monster. He looks almost like a god with multiple heads and multiple hands. This idea of Ravan as this magnificent creature with multiple heads and multiple hands is even found in Prambanan in Java about 1,000 years ago. And, that is even in, if you go to Angkor Wat, you will see images of Ravan, 10 heads, 20 hands, quite magnificent. There's the Pushpak Viman being shown, very different from the Pushpak Viman which is shown in the trailer, which is, like a lotus flower blooming. It reminded me of the film Pandora. That's not the way it is shown in temple art. In temple art, it typically is shown as a chariot-like thing, and sometimes it has wings, and sometimes there's a donkey pulling it or a horse pulling it. You see that in the miniature paintings. So it's, what is shown, which is history. Is Bollywood telling the history? Are the temples telling our history? Are the miniature paintings telling our history? Many people do not know that the entire Ramayana painting was first commissioned by Akbar the Mughal. He wanted to know this Ramayana story, and he got, he was dyslexic, some say he was illiterate, he didn't know to read, and so he told his artists to paint the entire Ramayana. And you have an image of Ram killing Ravan in the Mughal miniature paintings also. And in that you will see the Rakshasas looking like orcs and with, pock marks and horns. And it is the Persians who brought this imagery of a deformed demon into India. Indians never showed the Asuras and Rakshasas as some kind of misshapen monstrosities. This is a very Greek idea, a Persian idea, a Western idea. It's a colonized idea. It's not an Indian idea. So I guess in many ways you can say the Ramayana trailer shows us a very Western Ramayana. It's not a Hindu Ramayana. You can call it Sanatani if you want to, but I don't think this is how Rakshasas are ever portrayed in any art form in India. Mahishasur has horns because he's a buffalo, right? So buffaloes have horns, but otherwise horns are never shown with Rakshasas, and they're never shown as ugly beings. Vibhishana is a Rakshasa. Prahalad is an Asura. So they are just human beings, look like human beings. And if it's history, then you can't have orcs and trolls. No, you can have human beings only. You can't even have a monkey with a tail. Let's be honest about it. Unless you're saying in historical times, 5,000 years ago, monkeys could speak, which is not true. That is not the way. But then, you don't ask these difficult questions nowadays because it is our truth and our history. I just feel Ramayana is a very beautiful story. It's a fabulous story, and I want to tell stories. The Ramayana, I've been writing about it for 20 years. So people ask me that why don't you consult? But I said that, when you are driven by profit and you're not driven by bhav and bhakti, Ramayana doesn't come out. Tulsidas Ramayana is coming out of bhakti. It is coming out of bhav. It is not for profit. It is not for fame. It is not for TRP. It is not for votes. It is not to tell that one political party is better than the other political parties. It has nothing to do with India. It has to do with your yearning for the divine, and that is what Tulsi did. Then Tulsi Ramayana is therefore different from the Valmiki Ramayana, because Valmiki Ramayana was dealing with Buddhism and saying Buddhism is saying renounce the world, but we have to participate in the world. While Tulsi Ramayana was written when Islam has entered India and the idea of God has become important. And he's saying that God is not a formless God. There were yogis out there saying Alakh Niranjan. Alakh Niranjan means God who has no form. And he's saying, no, God also has form. He's Saguna. And he came on earth in the form of Ram to tell us what is Dharma, what is life, how he lived in life with dignity and grace despite all the problems he faced. And that is what Tulsi Ramayana says about how to live your life with dignity and grace in the Ramayana. And that is something that is missing, this dignity of Ram. Many feminists sometimes, quote a line, क्या ढोल पशु नारी सब ताड़न के अधिकारी. They say this is coming from Ramcharitmanas, and that's a very limited cherry picking line from the Tulsidas Ramcharitmanas, because this line is spoken not by Ram, not by Tulsidas, but a character in the story called Varun. Varun Dev, the sea god, is telling this line to Ram. It is not spoken by Ram. What is the line spoken by Ram, which is found in the Ramcharitmanas, which I find very useful? He says something to the effect that नर नपुंसक नारी या जीव चराचर कोई सर्व भाव कपट तजी मोहे परम priya soy. So he's basically saying that all creatures, male, female, and even napunsaka, the trans people who are now being sort of treated a little oddly and badly by the government, all of them are dear to me if they give up kapat. That is what Ram is saying. He's not saying nar, dhol pashu nari sab tadan ke adhikari. That is what Varun is saying. And both of these characters are coming within Ramcharitmanas. So there's a lot in Ramcharitmanas. It's more bhakti. It's less dharma. It is more bhakti. Valmiki Ramayana is more dharma, less bhakti. Because Valmiki Ramayana it's redefining. It's telling Buddhist dhamma of monasticism is not the right dhamma. The right dhamma is the householder dharma, the grahastha dharma, which is more important. Well, Tulsi is coming from bhakti. And bhakti is the most important thing. And the current trailer which is coming is neither interested in dharma nor interested in bhakti. It is interested in heroic journeys. There's chaos and order. Now, this is a Greek way of telling the story. It's therefore, I think the music is not Mangala Bhavana, but Hans Zimmer's operatic music, where there is chaos which is going to be destroyed. And it's almost messianic. It sounds like, Pagambar, Messiah coming to solve the problem. This great war is going to happen. Dajjal is there. And then, the Messiah will come and defeat them, and that is what Ramayana is about. And that's not really true, because that is a Western by-station Islamic Christian storytelling, Greek storytelling of the hero killing the monster. Hindu Dharma is not based on that. It's based on rebirth, on Ramayana and Mahabharata. When you read the Bhagavata Puran, they will say that Ravan is actually a bhakt of Ram, and his hatred for Ram comes out of Viparita Bhakti. In hating Ram, he remembers Ram so much that he gets Vaikuntha in the end. He's Jaya and Vijay, the doorkeeper of Vaikuntha. So these stories are what make Ramayana fabulous. These stories where even Ravan is seen as a bhakt of Ram, and this whole idea of Ravana Anugraha Murti, which is found across temples in India, where he's carrying Shiva on top of his head and he's thinking that he can control the whole world the way some politicians believe they can. But then there you see this mountain being carried and Shiva bringing him down to earth and saying, calm down, you're not as great as you think you are. I will come down as Hanuman and carry the mountain across the sea. Or I will come down, or Vishnu will come down as Krishna and carry Govardhan Parvata. So a mountain tells you stories. The Kailasa mountain carried by Ravana, the Sanjeevani carried by Hanuman, the Govardhana carried by Krishna. Now these are the ideas of Hindu mythology, which Bollywood and producers from Bandra don't get. It's so I don't know how the next generation is going to get the Ramayana. They will see the Ramayana as Indian version of Harry Potter, an Indian version of Game of Thrones, an Indian version of Lord of the Rings. But that's not what it is. That's not what it is. It is the Pancham Ved. Ramayana is called the Pancham Ved, the fifth Ved, through whom the women of and Shudras, this is a clearly line from Chandogya Upanishad. It says that the stories were written for women and for the Shudras. And, the Vedic people didn't need all this. For the lesser beings, stories are told so that we can access Vedas through these stories. We are the lesser beings. We are the Shudras. We will listen to the Ramayana. But I'm not sure about the Valmiki Ramayana. I'm not sure about Bollywood versions of Ramayana. I prefer reading the traditional Ramayans, which come from Bhakti, which come from Dharma, which are dealing with difficult issues, it's not about CGI effects, and it's not about a hero myth, and definitely not history, because God is not a historical character. Ram is God for us, and in historical characters are born and they die. So if you're calling Ram a historical character, you have to talk about his birth and his death. We don't do that. We talk about Ram as Paramatma, and we talk about him as Bhagavan. And because he's Bhagavan, you can't quite call it history. It trivializes sacred narratives. It definitely trivializes the Vedas. But I guess something called freedom of speech and creative license and profit.